Alrighty, so right here is my first time cycling off base. Before this, I was just cycling on base. It was my first couple weeks there. This is right here in Iwakuni, Japan. Doing a little climb. My friend, when he was a noob. Alright, I wanted to share something with you guys. I was in class trying to delete some of my bookmarks that I had on my computer, and I came across an article that I saved a while back. It's called "My Dad's Cross-Country Bike Trip in 1977 Inspired Me to Quit My Job and Travel the World" by Ashley Mateo, and this is on bicycling.com. My dad was driving me to Atlantic City to catch the casino bus back to New York in another miserable work week when he interrupted me, complaining to ask what I would want to do if I didn't have to go back to work. My answer was instantaneous. I wanted to see the world. I didn't have any particular plan or ulterior motive. I didn't want to build schools in foreign countries or tutor kids in English. I just wanted to bear witness to the beautiful places we're constantly bombarded with on Instagram. So quit, he said. I assumed he was joking. What kind of parent encourages his adult child to give up a steady paycheck from a company that matches their 401k contributions? So I brushed him off and proceeded to list out all the reasons I believe I couldn't leave my current situation in New York. He listened politely, just like a good dad should, then shot each idea down one by one. You have money saved, he said. You'll get another apartment. You're far enough into your career that you can freelance until you get a full-time job. You're not meeting anyone on all those dating apps in New York now. So who's to say you will if you stay? Dads are so wise. And then he said, I think it's time you read my journal from my bike trip. I knew about the trip in 1977. When my dad was 25, he had two of his college friends loaded up their bikes and spent a summer pedaling across America. I'd seen the old photos from his adventure, and one of his biking buddies is my godfather. But I didn't know until that car ride that he had quit his job to take the trip. Quitting to me, he has always been synonymous with failure. My parents taught me that if you work hard and stick it out, you'll eventually get what you want. And for most of my life, that rule held true. By 26, I had everything I thought I was supposed to want. A great job in publishing, an apartment in New York, enough money to get drinks and dinner when going out with friends after work. But I felt unfulfilled and unhappy, always wondering what came next with no idea and no guts. How to make something happen myself, still voluntarily leaving the security of 9 to 5 world for an uncertain future, felt aimless and indulgent. Knowing my dad had quit, something rocked my perspective. I started reading his journal and very quickly realized this wasn't some joyride for a bunch of hippies, fed up with a sense of stagnation at his job, hoping to escape family drama and looking for clarity in his relationship. My dad set out to find answers to questions about about his future. He wasn't running away, he was just hoping to experience life a little differently. And that's exactly what he did. He wrote about how poorly timed flat tire flat tire near Boonville, Kentucky landed his friends and him at a quarry, where a bunch of stone guards decided to give them an impromptu shooting lesson. He recounted a chance meeting with the Babe in a Foxy Halter in Columbia, Missouri, that led to free camping and a house party with Skinny Dipping and Pink Floyd on the stereo. And he wrote about a weekend spent working as houseboys for $2.30 an hour at Inn at Otter Crest in Oregon. Throughout it all, he debated the decision he knew he'd have to make at the end. Would he stay west when he got there and start anew, or return to the life he knew back east? Reading about my dad's experience getting inside his 25-year-old head, which seemed to be in a very similar place to my 27-year-old brain 40 years later, made me realize there's nothing aimless or indulgent about doing something you believe in for yourself. It took reading through his journal twice for me to hand in my own resignation. The first time I raced through the pages, desperate to know how it all ended. Then I read it more slowly, realizing how relatable his feelings in 1970s were to mine now. And if he could quit to follow a wild dream for a few months, why shouldn't I? So I quit then boarded a flight to Thailand with my best friend after 10 days of Chang beers, $6 massages, and island hopping. I said goodbye to her at the Bangkok airport and left for another 6 weeks alone in Europe. I had an arrival and departure date from France and a list of cities I wanted to visit, but that was it. Traveling without an itinerary was just as scary to me as traveling alone for the first time. Both of those things reminded me that this wasn't a vacation. I was in Europe to learn something about myself so I could figure out what I wanted to do with my life. It was an adventure, though I climbed the steps of the sacred core for a bird's eye view of Paris, and ventured below ground to taste from the port caves of Porto, Portugal. I survived on gelato and prosciutto in Barcelona while walking nearly 10 miles a day. I hiked Cinque Terre in a rainstorm and drank too much of my favorite Italian wine in Venice. But it was also work. I struggled to get used to eating meals all alone and had to force myself to make a small talk with strangers. Some something I admittedly suck at. I miss my friends and worried that I was missing out on life back home. I didn't always feel like sightseeing 24/7, and I occasionally felt lost with the structure of the daily routine. And then I felt guilty for being bored during what was supposed to be once in a lifetime adventure. On the good days and bad, though I saw the world, a part of it at least, and in doing so, I realized that I wanted to go home. Sometimes it takes distance, not just a day off here and there, but the kind of distance that comes with completely stepping away from everything you know to gain that kind of perspective. My dad ended up going home too at the end of his trip. He wasn't sure exactly what would come next, but over those 5,000 miles, he realized it was okay to feel that way because uncertainty is what keeps us from ever truly setting into total stagnation. Almost 40 years later, that epiphany held true for me too. I came home to another job I couldn't refuse, but I didn't take it because I was scared of being unemployed or because I was looking for a way out of my previous situation. I took it because it made sense at the time, and I knew that if I stopped making sense, I had enough trust in myself enough to leave. Quitting no longer scared me because I had learned that doing what's right for you, not to your resume, your bank account, or anyone else, is really the only way anyone can figure out what they're supposed to do. Everyone wonders what comes next. My dad taught me that it's okay to be unsure of that. The search for an answer is what really matters. Going on a bike adventure, don't get caught with a flat. So that really stuck out to me. It's kind of like some of my thoughts and my reasoning on why I want to go out and do these things. I'm kind of like not sold on anything, and getting some traveling in seems really nice. Maybe that might be my case. I'll travel for only 5,000 miles, and I'll come back wanting to work and start a life. But right now, I want to do it as long as I can. But maybe this can help you guys figure out what you guys want to do if you're stuck.